So we'll open up the questions to the room now. Okay, Stuart.
Ian, interested to hear your thoughts on, both sides of the fence, investor and investee, when it comes to valuation. And you touched on this before. There's a possibility of having a down round later on if you can't meet those kind of particular kind of milestones. So when you're first starting out, let's take an example, a tech company looking to raise $500,000, but you haven't yet got the product in place. How can you work valuation on that? So this is just an example. This isn't me, but it's just and what investors look for when there's sort of a potential company that will explode.
It's a black art. It really is a black art. It's a matter of persuading. You've got to sell the dream, and you've got to sell the dream that's worth so much money. But the big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs can make, and it's actually what Heidi was talking about in her blog, is overvaluing your company. That can be a big mistake as well. So you say to people, I know my company's got no sales, but it's worth $5 million, and we want $500,000, so you get 10%. Well, that sounds pretty good to you. Doesn't sound very good to them, and it's going to be tough to pull off. So you'll have to have a business that you've got half a dozen people chasing you for that one. This is going to be the hottest thing since whatever. To make that work. Also, if you've got a high valuation, and this was the problem in the boom and bust years of late 90s, early part of the 20th century, when valuations were crazy high. And so when you're investing in companies that have really high valuation, getting a return out of those companies was really, really tough. And particularly if you've got prefs, then frankly, they're going to get all the money. You're not going to make any money out of it.
It's difficult because the SEIS is 150. They move into EIS. There's that gap between that and seed. So you really have to get as much as you can without selling too much to the company. So it's difficult balance.
I suppose so. But the other thing is that if investors are investing in a business, they usually want a substantial piece of your business, because it just makes it worth their while. I mean, if they've only got 2%, it's not really worth them, bothering about. So they're looking. So by and large, investment deals, sweet spot for investment deals is between 30 and 40%. 35% would be a typical investment deal. Okay, and kind of the valuation kind of comes from that rather than the other way around. It's bizarre, So this is maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but to say that if you want to raise $500,000 or $2 million, you would lose 35% of your business in either case, because that's the kind of because one thing is you would not lose 55% of your business because nobody wants to own, because they have to consolidate you and all that sort of thing. So no investor ever wants to, to get to that stage.
It's individually. Hearing it from the perspective of how much does the investor want in my company, and
that's right.
Thought of it that way.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. So it's tricky. Yeah. One thing I should just mention on that down round we did. Let me just tell you, and the first round was £1 a share, and we deferred we bought a bunch of shares that were deferred shares, and at the second round, a year later, we brought in fresh investment. But by that time we were looking really good, and so the fresh investment was at £6. So we got our shares at £1 and they paid £6. That was great. Okay. When it came to the down round, and they wanted to bring us down to £1 again, what we did was we said, look, we still believe in this business, and if we can exit for a certain value, then we want a ratchet put in so we get our value back. And because it's always of course, venture capitalists and investors always want a big exit. They said, yeah, okay, sure, why not? Absolutely. If you can get a big exit, that's great, and we did. So at the millisecond before we sold out, the venture capitalists had 55% of the company. And the millisecond after they sold out, they had 35% of the company. And so the ratchet moved in our favour, and we got our money back. And that's one thing, if you are up against the wall, with people putting all sorts of conditions on you and so forth, then it gives you an opportunity to put a condition on them and say, look, if this is if this is a success we think it could be, then we want some reward for that. And usually they'll buy it because they want a big exit. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Alan?
Just to pick up on something, I may have misunderstood what you were saying there, but since April, the rules for seed and EIS have changed slightly. So if your company wants to raise £500,000 now, it can actually raise the whole lot at the same time. Whereas when seed was first introduced, you had to raise and spend 90% of that seed money and then raise the EIS money. That's no longer the case. You can actually do it all at the same time.
All right, okay. That's one of our long-term factors was we couldn't join them together. And also when we were talking to syndicates, they didn't want to come in. They don't want to split the deal. They wanted everything in one. So we had to kind of do a bridge round to get us to a position that we could go forward in. So that from April then.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question from David.
It was just more of a comment really. I was going to say that it's a variation on the theme that a lot of investors, they will try and negotiate in downside protection as well.
Yeah.
So, similar to the ratchet that you spoke about, often investors will have what they call anti-dilution protection, which means that if you have the down round, then they get bonus issue extra shares. So I think it's a note of caution. If you're not familiar with that, you see it, an alarm bell should be ringing, because what it essentially means is that if you've been selling your business hard and saying, I'm going to deliver this, I'm going to deliver this, I'm going to do this, and you're going to make such a great return, then they'll say, well, okay, we'll have some anti-dilution just to protect ourselves, and you don't need to worry about it because you're going to do really well.
I know. That's right.
And bearing in mind that what you were saying about, out of 10 companies, 6 will do okay, 2 will do badly perhaps, then there's 8 companies that even the ones that do okay will be going back to the more money. So that's one thing I would say is anti-dilution alarm bells should be ringing. You might have to give it away in order to get a deal done, but know what you're doing, because I think unless you properly financially modeled the outcomes across a range of valuations, you can be badly stuck.
And this, of course, brings up the importance of getting advice from your network, often McLean and Spence.
That's very kind. You said that wasn't why I mentioned it, but I've just seen it.
Oh, you're right though, because entrepreneurs are by nature very optimistic people. You think you're going to take on the world and you're going to win. Simple as that. Nothing bad can happen, and frankly, it's not like that. It's.
Roger?
Yeah, so in a kind of classic model, the Silicon Valley model, you raise your 1 million or 4 million, and you put together your amazing team, you build your products, and then you go to the VC and everybody's happy. In Scotland, with people not investing in early stage tech companies, and I hear a lot about how hard it is to get developers and tech people into early stage companies because they go and work for FanDuel and Skyscanner banks. So what if you had, from your experience, what advice you had for putting together those early stage teams? Because that's what I'm realising is the absolute core of anything is the team. So what's the advice for doing that other than just networking?
Well, frankly, you've got to sell the dream. That's what you've got to do. I'll tell you a little, dirty little secret. When Owl in the 80s, we looked at the salary surveys of software people in Scotland, and we paid 5% below because we could, because people liked to work for us, and the alternative was go and work for Standard Life or Royal Bank. It was terrible, so we paid less, and that was fine. Now that doesn't persist today, because FanDuel and Skyscanner are quite exciting places to work, and so forth. So you've got to basically, your band of warriors, they've got to know that they're taking on the world, and they can. It's going to be great, come along, fantastic, and we're going to, and because we're a wee team, when we do a big trade show launch in San Francisco, you're going to be there on the stand doing it, it's you're part of the whole process, very.
And that's the number one job of the CEO anyway, is to sell the dream. Anybody else have a question?
And also you can give them options, obviously, so if you think your business is going to be worth a lot of money one day, you give them options. They've got 2% in the company or something. It's
just experience, quoting figures like that doesn't get people excited.
Well, I mean,
it's the dream thing. If they really believe the dream.
The culture of your organisation, I think, Scott, certainly having worked with a lot of startups, they feel that they are changing the world in various ways.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that from the job adverts I've seen, they're not really trying very hard. We're hiring now on your webpage. You know, I think we need to look at.
I think unless you come from a direct marketing, the Made Brave guy is the classic example. Unless you really fantastic well done, unless you've really got that level of confidence to sell the dream, and most people in Scotland don't have that.
No.
That's why I outsourced the hiring process to Headhunter, because it is the time and opportunity cost of me taking time out of the business to look for someone. You get contact with one of our investors who used this company in the past, and just say, put together an exciting package, and we're looking at ex-IBM employees now who are selling for us, because I wouldn't be able to have that conversation with them, and they were able to pitch, at the right level for me.
What I'd be doing if I was you, I'd be hanging about the informatics people, when they've got social events and stuff like that. I'd be getting to know them. I'd be getting to know people doing good PhDs and stuff, and and hiring.
Talk to Eden Scott.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark had a question.
Yeah. How long does it take between going to a VC and actually typically signing the paper?
So the question is how long it takes, just for the camera.
Yeah, 6 months minimum. So even if you think it's going to be quicker than that, it's always 6 months at least. And that means there's a calendar you've got to watch as well, because there's kind of seasons for this. So the season's closed at the moment. Nobody's talking to anybody right now, and it'll open again in September, and it'll close in Thanksgiving, and it'll open again in mid-January sort of time, But yeah, it takes time. It just takes time, and particularly if you've got a syndicate of investors, then you've got, we've just done a deal. One of my companies has just done a deal. We've got 2 big investors in, and one of them was more awkward than the other, and it just takes time to sort these things out. You've got to get them aligned, with you and so forth.
Okay. And for angel investment, do they have the same seasonality? So
yeah, well, almost actually, almost. Actually, angel investors have become kind of pseudo-venture capitalists, to be honest with you. Depends. Somebody like me, I'm on my own, so I don't need a lot of work. But basically a lot of angels, people like Archangels are really venture capitalists. They're big group. Parry Equity is the same. So they will do a lot of work, and it will be quite complex. So they've gone beyond the sort of quick, easy, angel type stage. Yeah, I tend to rely on instinct, which is a bit of a down.
And is it seasonal in London, Ian?
No, it's seasonal everywhere. Yeah, no, you're not going to get anybody. You're not going to get any serious discussion with them. Summer holidays and Christmas holidays is as simple as that.
Okay, Roger.
So is it worthwhile if you're in a place where there's lots of money, you don't know anybody? So if you're in London or if you're in Las Vegas, where they're supposedly throwing money around, or obviously there's lots of people who come to you and say they want to find fee or things. Is there a way of actually looking for local people who actually do know what they're doing? Is there anything to look for there?
Well, no, it's certainly worthwhile looking at putting a corporate finance advisor in place, and they will want 5% of the money raised and so forth. If they know what they're doing, and you obviously ask them what money they've raised for other people, and if they've raised the kind of scale of money you need, and it's the kind of industry you're in and so forth, then great, I would use them. But, it's buyer beware, isn't it? You can get landed with people. One of the things we did when Voxar, we actually hired the best corporate finance house in the world for medical technology, based in Chicago, and they sent their team over, and we were negotiating the exit, and the other side wanted to drop the price dramatically at the last minute, and these supposed experts from Chicago said, "Oh yeah, sure, that makes sense." And we went, "No, it doesn't." And we had to do it ourselves. You still had to pay the bloody fee. So that wasn't very funny. But no, I think I would certainly recommend looking at corporate finance advisors if you want to raise substantial money, because somebody like Stuart McKnight at Ascendant, he will know which funds are in funds right now, which guys are investing, what they're interested in. So you save a lot of time. and also, it's difficult to go cold into companies, into venture capital companies. It's best to have an introduction. So if they know, if you know you know somebody.
Okay, sorry, Alan wants.
I just want to make a point.
I'll make a point.
The reason the link exists is that certainly at the lower end of the market, it's perceived to be almost impossible to make money from the process of raising funds. Mm-hmm. So Link is a not-for-profit organisation which is funded mainly by European money, and it only exists because of perceived market failure and the difficulty of commercially raising funds. So I think Etienne says that unless you're looking for probably the millions, it's not worth trying to find someone you're going to pay to raise money. A, there won't be anyone, or B, they won't do a very good job. I think there's Angel's Den, which does exist, of course, which has become more of a crowdfunding site as such. Probably Beer and Partners tries to do a bit of this as well, but other than that, you're probably on your own, or in Scotland you've got links to help in that process.
Right. Okay. So we have a question from Deep.
Well, see, we have our app right now, and it's in the pretty early stages. So obviously we're just going out to the market. Now, before going to the investors, so obviously, like you said, we're not supposed to overvalue the company as well. But we have a dilemma where, like, how do we actually value the company? Because we have the technology in place, but we don't have the market share in place.
Yeah, sure.
So does the technology should be put in the valuation, or is it only once we get the market share we put in the valuation?
Well, technology is irrelevant. It's the market that's important. So what you've got to do is put a cold towel around your head and think about where your market might be. Can you sell 500,000 of these at $4.99 or whatever it happens to be? And how quickly would you need to do that, or would you need partners to do that? Do you need to do a branding exercise so it's a Barclays app or something? Whatever. Think of all these sort of things and work out what that could mean in terms of revenue, and that will give you an idea of what the company might be worth. But it's not easy. I mean, it could. But by and large, if your company's growing, 50, 100% a year, then you're worth. When people buy, everybody does this. When you're buying shares in a company, you're buying future. You're not buying today's price. You're buying what you think the price will be. So if you can show that you're going to be, successfully growing, then you've got a good valuation. Yeah. But then don't forget, if you get far too big a valuation, then you might suffer later. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Ian, I thought your insight was fascinating, and obviously you've got a fantastic spread of knowledge. Coming from my background in biotech, obviously a lot of companies are leaning towards acquisition or licensing, and can raise angel investment relatively easily, and tend to be curtailed by that. So they build a company to what they can raise, rather than saying what do we actually need to build a company of scale.
That's right.
And I was really interested in what you were talking about with the VCs and selling to the right people. So Douglas Anderson's got a fantastic story about how he spoke to 400 VCs trying to get someone to invest in Optos, because he wasn't treating his VC like his customer, and he was just going in to see people who were never ever going to invest in what he was doing. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on how we can encourage more entrepreneurs in Scotland to build companies of scale, rather than existing in this kind of microcosm of growth and then acquisition.
There's a particular problem in life sciences because it usually takes a lot longer, because you have to get stuff certified and often, and so even angel and even venture capitalists can find the period is just too long.
The big investment in Scottish companies recently has all been from outside the UK. Dutch Dutch investment, Buchanan's American investment. It's very difficult to get that kind of culture. It's quite interesting for me moving into the tech sector now, because in biotech it's all about raising money. There's loads of skill, there's loads of expertise, but nobody can get any cash. And in tech, it seems to be that people can raise money relatively easily. It's more about how they can fill.
But again, it's the same thing though. The $2 billion companies in this building both raised their funding in the States. The first funding they got locally, but there's substantial funding raised in the States. And actually, Nigel Eccles went to see 90 venture capitalists, and was turned down by 8 to 9 of them. So it's it's not.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing.
And do you think it is just hard graft?
It's just hard graft. People do. There's no question that people do look for an exit. Because if you get 2 or 3 million in the bank, it's not bad. It's not a failure. So people will be often comfortable with that. So it's a tricky one. How do we persuade people to shoot for the moon and go for it?
Yeah.
Keith?
Yeah, sorry, on that point, Ian, have you experienced a relationship where, just exactly what Jane said, now's the question, growing a business with angel money initially, because that's the stuff that's available to you.
Yeah.
The relationship to then go to venture capital, because I think Michael Nina started. Is it always the best option is to try and give the angels an exit at that time?
Yeah, that's people have been talking about trying to do that. It's tricky. Do I want to sell my Fangio shares right now? No, not really. I think it's still growing at a factor of 4 a year. I think I'll just hang on to them, thanks. But no, you're right. And certainly there have been some examples of funds that have come in and have bought the angels out, and that gives them some liquidity. So it has happened, but it's not common. Largely because as an angel, most angels are investing money they don't need. If you really did need that money, you wouldn't invest it in a startup company. So most angels are quite happy to keep their money in as long as the business is getting more valuable. Why would they want out particularly? They've got other businesses that are not getting more valuable. I'd like my money back from them, but I'm not going to get it. Why would I get money back from the ones that are continue to get more valuable? So it's a tricky one, I think.
I think also most VCs would rather see their cash deployed.
Oh yeah, of course.
Business.
Yeah. But then, VCs want shares for their cash. So if they can buy shares from you, rather, they don't really much mind about that. I don't think this is the VCs that are the problem. I think it's the actual. I don't know too many angels who'd be happy to sell out, to be honest. If it's going okay.
So time maybe for one more question.
Ian, you mentioned that FanDuel was 90 pitches and successful. I was at a masterclass recently in London, and they used that exact stat as well. They said, expect a year, expect 90 pitches. You think, well, that's a full-time job.
Yeah, well, it is. Absolutely is. Yeah. And don't think crowdfunding is because I'm speaking to Kevin Miller. The month he raised £500,000